Everyone, PresidentUniverse.com or AndrewConboy4President.com. It's President Conboy here. I'm going to read to you from the History of the FBI by Tim Weiner, and then I'm going to read you the definition from the Black's Law Dictionary. I just want to give a shout out to my daughters, my mom Kathy, my four daughters, another Madison, Colette, Quinn. Thanks for teaching Daddy how to win. Miss you girls, can't wait to see you. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, a division of the U.S. Department of Justice charged with investigating all violations of federal laws except those specifically assigned to another federal agency. The division dates back to 1909, though it did not acquire its current name until 1935, abbreviated FBI. Okay, and then the word bureau means compartments. It's drawer compartments. That's the bureau. Okay, here's the first chapter. It's called Anarchy. J. Edgar Hoover went to war at the age of 22 on Thursday morning, July 26. That's my daughter, Miller, what up? 1917. He walked out of his boyhood home in Washington, D.C. and set off for his new life at the Justice Department to serve as a foot soldier in the army of lawmen fighting spies, saboteurs, communists, and anarchists in the United States. America had entered World War I in April. The first waves of her troops were landing in France. Unprepared for the horrors that faced them, on the home front, Americans were gripped by the fear of sabotage by German secret agents. The country had been on high alert for a year, ever since an enemy attacked on a huge warehouse of American munitions bound for the battlefront. Okay, here's part one. It says this is the September 1920 bombing of Wall Street, a terrorist attack that went unsolved. Okay. The country had been on high alert for a year, ever since the enemy attack on a huge warehouse of American munitions bound for the battlefront. The blast at Black Tom Island on the western edge of New York Harbor had set off 2,000 tons of explosives in the dark of a midsummer night. 7 people died at the site. In Manhattan, thousands of windows were shattered by the shockwaves. The Statue of Liberty was scarred by shrapnel. Hoover worked for the War Emergency Division, or WED, at the Justice Department, charged with preventing the next surprise attack. He displayed a martial spirit and a knack for shaping the thinking of his superiors. He won praise from the division's chief, John Lord O'Brien. He worked Sundays and nights, as I did, O'Brien recounted. I promoted him several times simply on merits. Hoover rose quickly to the top of the division's Alien Enemy Bureau, that's AEB, which was responsible for identifying and imprisoning politically suspect foreigners living in the United States. At the age of 23, Hoover oversaw 6,200 Germans who were interned in camps and 450,000 more who were under government surveillance. At the age of 24, he was placed in charge of the newly created Radical Division of the Justice Department. It says right there, capital R, capital D, the Justice Department. And he ran the biggest counterterrorism operations in the history of the United States, rounding up thousands of radical suspects across the country. He had no guns or ammunition. Secret intelligence was his weapon. Hoover lived all his life in Washington, D.C., where he was born on New Year's Day, 1895, the youngest of 4 children. He was the son and the grandson of government servants. His father, Dickerson, was afflicted with depression. Deep melancholy cost him his job as a government cartographer and likely hastened his death. His mother, Annie, was doting but dour. Hoover lived at home with her for the first 43 years of his life, until the day she died. He told several of his closest aides that he remained a single man because he feared the wrong woman would be his downfall. A bad marriage would destroy him. Hoover's niece, Margaret Fennell, grew up alongside him. She stayed in touch with him for 6 decades. She knew him as well as anyone could. I sometimes have thought that he really, I don't know how to put it, had a fear of becoming too personally involved with people, she reflected. If he ever expressed love beyond his devotion to God and country, there were no witnesses. He was sentimental about dogs, but unemotional about people. His inner life was a mystery, even to his immediate family and his few close friends. Hoover learned how to march in military formation and how to make a formal argument. The drill team and the debate team at Central High School were the highlights of his youth. Central High's debate squad was the best in the city, and Hoover became one of its stars. His school newspaper praised his competitive spirit and his cool, relentless logic. He told the paper after a stirring victory over a college team that debating had given him a practical and beneficial example of life, which is nothing more or less than the matching of one man's wit against another. Hoover went to work for the government of the United States as soon as he had his high school diploma. Its monuments were all around him. His two-story home sat 6 blocks southeast of Capitol Hill. At the crest of the hill stood the chandeliered chambers of the Senate and the House, the colossal temple of the Supreme Court, and the temple and the Library of Congress. With its vaulted ceilings and stained glass, Hoover dutifully recited the devotions of the Presbyterian Church on Sundays, but the Library of Congress was the secular cathedral of his youth. Library of Congress, cathedral. The library possessed every book published in the United States. The reverent hush of its central reading room imparted a sense that all knowledge was at hand. If you knew where to look, the library had its own system of classification, and Hoover learned its complexities as a cataloguer, earning money for school by filing and retrieving information. He worked days at the library while he studied in the early evenings and on summer mornings at George Washington University, where he earned his master's. He got his Master Mason degree in law in June 1917. He registered for military service but joined the Justice Department to fight the war at home, for the Germans, I believe. The gravest threats. Now, this is just my theories and my beliefs just from reading their code, the Mason Code, whatever you want to call it, whoever's code or made these codexes up. They put it everywhere. Like a degree, whenever they call it a degree. Okay, we just watch for the word degrees, enlightenment, blinded the light stuff. That's red flags, or blue, because they're both red. Republicans and Democrats, they log roll us. I'm going to read you that. I'm going to finish with that definition. Log rolling. It's right by Lords. Okay, log rolling. The exchanging of political favors, especially the trading of votes among legislators to gain support of measures that are beneficial to each legislator's constituency. The legislative practice, they practice it, of including several propositions in one measure or proposed constitutional amendment so that the legislator or voters will pass all of them, even though these propositions might not have passed if they had been submitted separately. Many state constitutions have single subject clauses that prohibit this practice. Others is termed log roll. Okay, so that means the two parties, they work together and they log roll us. It doesn't matter what party you're on. That's what I'm saying is, don't worry, we broke the seal. We broke the seal. Oh, I'm going to redo that, and then we'll finish with the seal. Okay. So that was log rolling, Black's Law Dictionary. Now we're going to go almanac. Okay, the Great Seal of the United States. On July 4th, 1776, the Continental Congress appointed a committee consisting of Benjamin Franklin, okay, John Adams, who was a merchant, Thomas Jefferson, I believe it was a lawyer and merchant, to bring in a device for a seal of the United States of America. The designs submitted on this and subsequent committee were considered unacceptable. After many delays, a third committee appointed early in 1782 presented a design prepared by lawyer William Barton. Charles Thomson from Thomson Reuters, the Secretary of Congress, suggested certain changes, and Congress finally approved the design on June 20th, 1782. The obverse of the seal shows a bald eagle, phoenix. In the eagle's mouth is a ribbon bearing the motto E pluribus unum, out of many one, or some other people translate it New World Order, New Order World. In the eagle's talons are 13 arrows of war, and an olive branch of peace. The reverse shows an unfinished pyramid with an eye, the eye of providence, above it. So if you reverse your money and you shine a light through it, you can see the all-seeing eye, the pyramid. Okay, and then it's the same thing that's on the back of your $1 bill, the all-seeing eye pyramid. Okay, they kind of hide it behind the Great Seal. Okay, that's the Great Seal. And then behind it is just the pyramid chopped off the top of the tiny other pyramid. Okay, so that's it for today, class. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Lift someone higher. We need more positive electricity compared to negative electricity. Okay, we need. I don't know if you can see this ring here. This is when I won our championship in 2008 with the Omaha Lancers. It says family. Okay, that's what we need. All need to be La Familia. Okay, President Combo here signing off. Go to presidentuniverse.com, andrewcomboy4president.com. Stay up to date, America, universe. Stay up to date. Love you. 10 minutes, 57 seconds.